Hi, I'm AP Stedham with the SEC.
And I'm Doug Parrish with the ACC.
Yes, AP and DP. We're going to be giving you information and entertainment about the SEC and the ACC each week on various platforms, and we're so delighted to be here. Doug Parrish, DP, as we is known, is a former player at the University of California, defensive back extraordinaire, played in the CFL, drafted by the New York Jets, and I'm a multimedia personality from LA, Lower Alabama.
Outstanding, AP. I can't wait for this phenomenal football season. The anticipation is just through the roof. I mean, we've just had a kickoff last week with Georgia Tech and Florida State. I mean, 5 million viewers across the United States, man. I mean, 5 million. Can you imagine? The ratings are just going through the roof with the anticipation of college football. I'm so excited to be a part of it this season.
Doug, let's bring up that game. Let's backtrack, digress, if we will. Were you surprised that Georgia Tech defeated Florida State? I know it's an upset, but Georgia Tech has a good coach, and that quarterback transfer from Texas A&M. I thought he would play with confidence, and he did.
Absolutely. And college football has such parity across all teams this season, particularly with the transfer portal. So you can't really gauge a team based upon their performance last season. And I think when you get into a big game, especially across the water in Ireland, of all places, a marvelous place, they had significant fan base going on over there supporting Florida State. It tells you a lot about the brand of college football. Florida State was the anticipated, winner of that game, but Georgia Tech, man, I tell you, they came to play. They had no quit. The head coach, as you alluded to, right, AP, he has that team fired up and ready to go.
Yeah, the point of attack, which is so important in football, was, as we all know, the offensive and defensive lines. Who wins that battle usually dictates the outcome of the ball game. But Doug, we're going to move on now and get to the SEC and the ACC. So we're going to try to give our evaluations preseason of who are the top teams, and we're going to start two by two like Moses did with the ark, Doug.
2 by 2. I got my top two.
Here we go. You want to start first? Go ahead with your top two.
All right. Well, considering what we just discussed, Florida State was the favorite all throughout the offseason, but they were, upset over in Dublin. And so now who's at my top number one spot are the Clemson Tigers. No surprise to you, AP, huh? I tell you. And
no, good choice.
Yeah. And although I tell you, Dabo Swinney is going to have that team fired up. They didn't have that good year that they wanted last season, and it's kind of like they just took a step back last season, and now they're going to be ready to go. They hit the portal really hard this offseason, and at number two, I still have Florida State. So even with one loss.
Okay, already. I'm going to start off the SEC. Georgia, everyone is chasing them. They have those couple of championships the past several years. Carson Beck, the returning quarterback, we all know that that's the most important position. Defensively, they should be strong. They got the transfer running back, Trevor Etienne from Florida. I'm not sure if he's playing this week against Clemson, by the way. But I'd say Georgia's number one with Kirby Smart and his staff. And then we have Texas with Steve Sarkisian, who, Doug, remember this now, he's only won 10 games once in his career, and that's last season with the Longhorns. They won 12 games, reached the semifinals of the college football playoff. So I'm going to go with Quinn Ewers, the veteran quarterback who transferred from Ohio State, the Texas native. Georgia and Texas are my top two teams in the SEC, projected to meet in the championship game to be played in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, those are some great picks. I tell you right now, AP. The SEC is just has a lot of great talent this season. I'm looking forward to being right by your side at some of these games. And by the way, I'm thinking that some of these games are going to be SEC and the ACC butting up against one another this season.
I think it's 9, Doug. I think we counted prior
Yeah,
to coming on, but I believe it's 9. But we'll go over those games
absolutely.
through the course of the season. But I think that's correct. And those conferences geographically, they're adjacent. There's some rivalries built in between the conferences, as we'll discuss through the season as well. I got my next two teams, Doug.
Go
Alabama
ahead.
at number 3. They have the returning quarterback of Jalen Milroe. The new coach, Kalen DeBoer, has been a winner everywhere. Big time winner, actually. Had his team in the national championship game. And as long as he has his quarterback, which he did last year, Michael Penix Jr., he's
Yeah.
very successful. So he has Jalen Milroe. I'm interested to see how the defense will fare with Kane Womack, the former University of South Alabama head coach, now in Tuscaloosa. So Alabama has plenty of talent, and Kellen DeBoer knows how to coach, as
Oh
we've
yeah.
seen at all levels. And my number 4 team, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin knows offense. Jackson Dart returns as the quarterback's been there several years. They have an excellent core of receivers, plenty of running backs. Even though Quinshon Judkins hit the portal and went up to Ohio State for big money, or sorry, he thought big money. I heard he didn't get as much as he desired, but Ole Miss, and they brought in people from the transfer portal to shore up the defense. And that's where Lane Kiffin has to make a move in his coaching career. He has to be a complimentary football coach. We know he can coach offense. We
Oh yeah.
realize this. But
Oh,
coaching offense, you can't be a one-trick pony. You have to do more than coach offense. So Ole Miss is my team number 4. This has to be their year for Lane Kiffin. It's now or never in Oxford.
oh wow. I tell you, Alabama definitely is one of my top picks. I mean, I grew up right here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, so they are near and dear to my heart here in good old Tuscaloosa. But I tell you one thing, that Louisville team from the ACC is going to give a lot of people some headaches. I'm looking for them to be in contention in the ACC. That's why I have them at my number 3 spot, AP. I think that they're going to be a good team. I think they're well coached. But this season, last year they avoided Clemson and Florida State, and they made it to the title game, right? And so it's kind of interesting to see. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see them manifest into one of the powerhouses in the ACC this season. So I'm looking forward to them. Miami is my number 4th pick. So
14.
number 14. And Miami looks to be, they have 15 returning starters from last season. So a lot of people don't know that, but that gives the continuity that they need. And so to be an effective team. And Coach Cristobal, he's got his fingers on the pulse of that team. And the energy is positive there. And I'm looking forward to seeing that running back that they have that's coming out of the backfield, and Damian Martinez. And he seems to be a phenomenal player. And we have him actually ranked as one of the top running backs in the ACC for this season.
The ACC. And the person that I heard that's going to change that program for the better is Cam Ward, who transferred from Incarnate in Washington State. He's thrown for, I think, 14,000 yards already in his career, Doug.
Okay.
So he's an exceptional quarterback. He's not very big, but he's effective. So those are 2 good teams, Louisville and Miami. I'm going to my number 5 team is Missouri. I like them because of their quarterback, Brady Cook, and their special wide receiver, Luther Burden III. He had, I think it was 86 receptions last year, way over 1,000 yards. So that's a dynamic duo that's one of the best in the country. Eli Drinkwitz has done a very good job rebuilding that program. Could they play better defense? That's we'll see what happens on that side of the football. But I like Missouri as a team that can make the playoffs. Actually, I like them to make the playoffs. And then we have LSU. We know they have offense with Garrett Nussmeier, the quarterback. His dad is Doug Nussmeier, been in college and pro ranks. LSU always has excellent receivers, even though they lost 2 number 1 draft choices. Defense is the name of the game for LSU. Can they find defense? Can they find someone to play defense? Harold Perkins Jr., good linebacker, but I don't think they utilized him properly last season. Maybe they get him in a nice spot on the edge and drifting from side to side in the middle and keeping the offensive line and the coordinator on that side guessing. But those are my two teams, Mizzou and LSU at 5 and 6 in the SEC.
Outstanding choices, AP. My fifth pick is going to be North Carolina. I think that North Carolina State is going to be a amazing team. They upset some teams last season, and then they have 13 returning starters from last season. And they're going to avoid some of the big-time competition in the conference. So they have one of the best schedules in the ACC in order to make it all the way to the championship game. They're going to be an enormous threat in the ACC. And then one of the sleepers that I have, which is kind of a unique situation for this team because they just entered into the ACC this season, and that is the SMU. Yes, they are going to be an amazing team. I had a chance to sit down with their head coach in the ACC media days this past year, and I tell you right now, his demeanor, he's not really a cocky kind of coach. He's a coach that just sits back and he's kind of observing and watching out. And you know what? That paid off. That kind of mentality paid off in their first game this season already. If you saw them last week, they had poise. They were down, but they came back and won that game.
Yeah, those are two good choices, Doug. Moving on for me, 7 and 8. I've got the Tennessee Volunteers. They have their quarterback, Nico Iamaleava, and I believe that he's about 6'5", 6'6". He can make all the throws. They have Brew McCorby returning at the wide receiver position. He's kind of a burly wide receiver at 6'3", 215, 220, and I think that he could be the leader of that unit, and they have a good running back situation. The defense is getting better. They have an end on the defensive line who can James Pierce, who can rush the passer, and Tennessee usually has a good kicking game. And we know that Josh Heupel, he knows offense, so I'm not worried about that side of the ball. And I think there'll be improvement with Nico at the quarterback position. Can they play a little bit better defense? So Tennessee's a team to watch. Number 7. Number 8 is Oklahoma. We know that Dylan Gabriel moved on to Oregon, the quarterback, and they have Jackson Arnold, who played in the bowl game. He has excellent talent, but he turnover prone at this point. And Oklahoma, what I've heard from people in Sooner Country is they need more talent at the offensive and defensive lines, but we know that they're going to beat some people and upset them probably. But they're my number 8 team, the Oklahoma Sooners, and they're one of the new teams in the conference besides Texas.
Fantastic choices there, AP. I'm going to go with Georgia Tech, and I know they just beat Florida State overseas, and they should probably be ranked higher based on that performance. But from, just looking at them, if they did not have that win last week, this would still be a good ranking for them. So they're right there at number 7 for me. And Georgia Tech seems to be a good team this season. They do have a tough schedule this season in the ACC, but they have 3 ACC home games, which should help them, defeat some opponents in this upcoming season. Go ahead.
I see they played Notre Dame, Doug. I believe they host Notre Dame in Atlanta. I believe.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's going to be a really, really strong game.
Love that game. Love that. I've seen them play. I've actually been to the Notre Dame at Georgia Tech game a few years back. Notre Dame ended up making the playoffs that year.
Outstanding. And Notre Dame is one of those teams that are going to be coming into the ACC, which there are 16 teams, but when you add that Notre Dame games, it bumps it up to 17.
They do play some games in the conference for sure. And how they convince them to incorporate those games, they have a tough negotiator. I can tell you that.
Absolutely. And so then we're going to look at North Carolina Tar Heels, right? So May is gone. And so he's gone on to the NFL. So but they do have some significant depth with 13 starters returning. And so I look at that. I look at the returners, the starters that are returning on each of these teams, because I think it's critical to the continuity and to the bond that they have, especially in the secondary. As a former defensive back, you have to have that gel. You have to have that bond back there. You have to be able to communicate. And with this ACC conference, AP, as you know, is the conference of quarterbacks. So, I mean, we put out so many quarterbacks last season, and we got a really good group of quarterbacks right now. And then we pride ourselves on our quarterbacks right now. And so you got to be able to communicate back there in the secondary to be able to defend some of these quarterbacks.
Yeah, last line of defense. Doug, I like that running back, All-American running back from North Carolina. I saw him play last year versus Duke. I really enjoyed watching him play. He was big, he was powerful, but he had some speed as well. He is a sophomore, I believe, made All-American last year. So I'm sure North Carolina is going to run him quite a bit.
Omarion Hampton.
Excellent player. I really thought he was a talented running back. I liked him quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're moving on to number 9 for me is, I believe I'm going to put Kentucky in that slot, Doug. They have a good coach. Mark Stoops always is solid on defense. He does quite a bit with his talent on that side of the ball. They struggled offensively sometimes, but I think with Brock Vandagriff, the transfer quarterback from Georgia, he's waited his turn. He was behind Carson Beck for a number of years, and he knew that he wasn't going to play. He made the transition to transfer to Lexington and play for the University of Kentucky Wildcats. Doug, they have some talented receivers. I saw them play when they were freshmen, but they just were not consistent. They didn't support the quarterback. You have to win some of those 50-50 battles when the ball's in the air. We know Berrien Brown, he's a good kick returner as well. Dane Key, he has the height. So I like those two young receivers. Now they're juniors. This is their moment, and especially they have Brock Vandagriff. And so I think Kentucky defensively is usually solid, and I think that they're my, like I said, they're my number 9 team. Texas A&M University, Connor Wigman is the quarterback. He had some injuries, but he had some good stats, but he has to stay healthy, Doug. They have the new coach transferring in from Duke. He's Mike Elko, and they're facing Notre Dame the first game with Riley Leonard as the quarterback who played for Mike at Duke. So that's, of all the teams, Doug, 134 teams, and the coach transitions to Texas A&M to be the head coach. He was there before as an assistant, and his quarterback went to Notre Dame, and they're playing the very first game, national TV live, big ball game that night, Saturday night. Yeah. So, but I like Texas A&M, and I think Mike Elko do a better job with the talent than Jimbo Fisher for various reasons. So, Texas A&M University, number 2.
Excellent.
I mean, number 10. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. No, excellent. And I'm thinking to myself, this season, you got to realize that there are a lot of big time games early in the season, for a lot of these teams, which makes it so exciting for this year. Okay, I'm going to go with my alma mater, the University of California Golden Bears. And I think that they're going to have a really competitive season this year. They have a Heisman Trophy candidate in Jayden Ott, and I'm super excited to see him running behind the offensive line that they have. Siapi Balkani, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. But you know what? I'll tell you something right now. You don't have to know his name, but you got to know how to read his big bottom when he comes out there and blocking those defensive players and just hide behind him and get to the end zone. Jayden Ott is what I say. And, on the defensive side of the ball, you have Kay Ulave, who is a good linebacker. He was a young player last season, but he's come a long way. And then, Cal went to a bowl game last season. So a lot of those guys have a lot of bowl experience, and they have several players coming back that were starters last season. The interesting thing about Cal Berkeley's schedule this year is that they do play several of the top teams in the country, right? In the first season in the SEC and the ACC. So I'm looking forward to that competitive games that they're going to be having throughout this season. And then behind Cal, I have Virginia Tech. Now, Virginia Tech, yeah, Virginia Tech is a pretty strong team. Like I saw and met with some of the players that were at the ACC Media Days, and head coach Brent Pry has those guys ready to go. Yeah, they may not have the household name like the Florida State, but you know what? Virginia Tech is going to be competitive this season. And the reason why I say that is because they play Miami on the road, but they get Clemson at home. And then they avoid a lot of the powerhouse teams this season. So it makes for a good kind of smooth transition into the ACC this season.
Yeah, I think that he's building a pretty good program at Virginia Tech. Doug, you mentioned your Cal Bears at that's number 9 for you. At number 11 for me is the Auburn Tigers, and the California Bears will travel to the loveliest village on the plain to face the Auburn Tigers on the second game of the season. We'll be there at that ball game. So Auburn is a team with Peyton Thorne. We saw him last year play against the Cal Bears in Berkeley, transferred from Michigan State. He did not have very talented people on the perimeter. He had Rivaldo Fairweather, the transfer tight end, but now he's got some excellent freshmen at that position, plus a transfer from Penn State. Auburn is the spoiler team for me. They're going to beat some people where they're the underdog. And I think offensively, there's no question in my mind that Hugh Freeze will have them playing better because he has improved talent at the wide receiver position on the perimeter. You can put the fear into some of these defensive coordinators now. And defensively, they'll probably be sound. But I think Auburn, as I said, is my spoiler team. Watch out for Peyton Thorne and the infusion of talent at the wide receiver position. So they're number 11. Arkansas, they have Bobby Petrino returning as the offensive coordinator. You know, he was the head coach of Arkansas. We know that he has an excellent offensive mind. They have the transfer quarterback from Boise State, and he's a big quarterback, 6'5". I think that Arkansas will have better play at the quarterback position because of Bobby Petrino. I think he's going to be a big help to that offense. And Arkansas, Sam Pittman is an offensive line dominated coach, and he's on the hot seat. So Bobby Petrino, that addition, and the transfer quarterback from Boise, I think it's going to give him an opportunity to win more games within the conference. They gave Alabama a really tough ball game at Tuscaloosa, a 3-point game last year. But I think this season to be better on offense. They have length on the offense. They have big receivers, Doug. 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", big receivers. A couple of big receivers, and the quarterback is big himself. So that's my number 12 team, Arkansas.
All right. Well, my number 13 team is Boston College, AP. And I'll tell you something right now. Boston College has 2 first-team preseason candidates on the offensive line. They have Ozzie Trapilo, he's second team, and then they have Logan Taylor. So in terms of stability on that offensive line, they do have some good meaty guys that can block the defenders to give the quarterback some time to throw the ball in the pocket. Now, head coach Bill O'Brien did a great job at Penn, right? But now he's got his work cut out for him. But the good news is he has 17 starters coming back for Boston College this season. My former quarterback. Yep, go ahead.
I'm saying they like to run. I think Bill O'Brien likes to run the football.
Absolutely, and he's got 2 big, offensive linemen that can move some bodies off of the line. And so 14 for me is my old football quarterback from Cal Berkeley. I mean, what do you know? I mean, we go to the ACC Media Days for a long time. I haven't seen him in a long time. Troy Taylor.
Troy Taylor, right?
Watch out for him because he is a winner. He's very competitive, and he likes to coach guys up. He's a personable person that likes to, get the holistic person to do the best that they can do, whether it's academics or out in the community. So it's bigger than just football for Troy Taylor. And I'll tell you right now, I think that's one of the reasons why they hired him at Stanford, because Stanford has high academic requirements. And so a lot of the players, the transfer portal for Stanford, unfortunately, it only went one way. And those were the top guys going out of there. and then in terms of them coming in, they had to basically have a high IQ and they had to be smart guys. And that can be a challenge in football sometimes. To get the best players that may have some lower IQ standards. But I think overall, Troy Taylor is going to be fine. I got him at number 14. So he's not at the bottom of the pack, and I think he's got some growth to some ways to go when he goes into this season.
I know Tiger Bachmeier is a wide receiver. He was the best freshman in the conference last year, so I'm looking for Tiger to continue with his production on the field. And coming up, I know you probably discussed maybe his brother who plays for Wake Forest. At Wake Forest, the quarterback, Hank. Moving down the list here. Oh, yeah, great football family. Outstanding. Moving down the list, I have Florida. Billy Napier is on the hot seat, another coach in the SEC on the hot seat. Graham Mertz was the quarterback from Wisconsin, transferred and played last year, over 70% completion. I think he had 20 touchdowns, 3 or 4 interceptions, not very many. They lost their running back, Trevor Etienne, to the University of Georgia in the transfer portal. Doug, they have, I believe it's listed as the top strength of schedule in the entire country.
Wow.
I mean, if you look at the people that they're playing this year, I mean, I'm not sure. He may have an improved team, Doug, but I don't know how you can survive this type of schedule that he's looking at with the Florida Gators. Miami's the first game from the ACC. Then you're looking at Tennessee and Kentucky and also Georgia and Texas. And let me see, I'm looking at LSU and Ole Miss. I mean, that is an unbelievable schedule, Doug. So Florida is my number 13 team. Number 14, I have South Carolina. They have a dual threat quarterback, Lenoria Sellers, and they have also the dual threat quarterback, Robbie Ashford, who transferred from Auburn. So South Carolina, they're looking to improve the offense. The offensive line did not protect the quarterback very well. Spencer Rattler, he was running around quite a bit last season. So they're looking to improve on the offensive side, and defensively, they were porous as well. So South Carolina is sitting at number 14 for me, the Gamecocks.
Excellent choice, AP. I tell you, there's very, very good competition across both of these conferences. And at number 15, I have the folks that wear the orange uniforms, the Syracuse. The Syracuse Orange. Now, I tell you right now that the Syracuse team is kind of in a unique situation because, head coach Fran Brown brought in some top-notch transfers this season. He brought in that quarterback, Kyle McCord. He was playing at Ohio State. And so they were, so they have some ground to make up, and just because they're, at number 15 don't mean that they're not a good team. And that's the thing I love about the ACC this season is that they have a lot of parity among all the teams. And more importantly, the Orangemen have 7 home games with winnable teams. I mean, they can actually do something in the ACC. And now that's my number 15 team. And 16, I have the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. All right. And so Wake Forest, they have 15 returning starters, AP. And you talk about, just that nucleus in itself, those guys are going to be ready to go. It's like when you're playing football, you become a family, right? Everybody on the team becomes your brother, family members here. You may know some guys that are from the same city, the same state, and they just connect. And you got to have that, AP, when you're playing college football. And even in the professional ranks, you see that as well. But I have Wake Forest coming in at number 16.
Okay. Do you want to go with your 17th selection? Because you have one more team than I do, Doug, in the ACC. You have an advantage.
Well, you talk about people facing having the toughest schedule in the country. Well, Virginia Cavaliers have one of the toughest schedules in the country. They everything is pointing up for them. However, when you're kind of at the bottom of the pack, no pun intended, they have no place to go but up. And I'm looking to see how they respond. They had some close losses last season, and this season, just like these other teams, it's such a fine line between winning and losing. And so you gotta just stay poised, and you gotta keep these guys energized on the sideline, and that comes from the head coach. So I'm looking forward to seeing, how these teams will shape up in this season. And I'm looking forward to a fantastic ACC season. It's going to be great. We're going to be on the road, AP, and we're going to be bringing you all the live coverage right into your living room for all of our fans on all of the platforms that we support. And so we're just looking forward to engaging some of the fans. And more importantly, we're going to bring in some of the players, the previous players, and the coaches. We're going to be in the rooms and the press conferences. Yeah, absolutely. Talking to the coaches, the assistant coaches. Why'd you call that play? Why'd you run that play? Why'd you go for it on 4th down? Why didn't you kick a field goal? I mean, all the amazing things that are going to be going on in college football this season, man. I'm getting pumped up. I want to put my shoulder pads on right now.
So good. Let's go. Get the helmet. We're ready. Doug, I just got the 2 teams left. Mississippi State with the new coach, Jeff Lebby, and he brought in the quarterback from Baylor, Blake Shapen. So he's been there 3 years, 5,600 yards, 36 TDs. So Mississippi State is trying to revive that program. They're my number 15 team. They'll probably will be better offensively with Jeff Lebby. He's considered one of those young offensive gurus. They're at number 15. Number 16 is Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, they have 4 quarterbacks. Doug, I spoke to the coach the other day during the SEC football media teleconference, and he said there's 4 quarterbacks competing. But I think that Nate Johnson, he's a dual threat, very athletic, skilled, can throw pretty good passer, transfer from Utah. I think he's going to take command. So Vanderbilt trying to get into the winning mode because they lost all their games in the conference last season. Been very difficult for them with Clark Lee, but he's a graduate of Vanderbilt, defensive minded coach. But I think offensively they should be better. And so Vanderbilt is my team number 16. Like I said, I think the ACC and SEC compete against each other 9 times. We'll make sure that's correct next show. But we want to just say we're going to be on the road, as Doug described, at the ball games, giving reports, previews, post game, watching the coach at the podium and having those videos of the post game with the head coaches and the players, those videos and the interviews. And so we're looking forward to being around the country and enjoying the ACC and the SEC. So this is AP Stedham with the SEC and my co-host
Alan Parrish with the ACC. And don't sleep on the new playoff that we have. 12 teams are going to be in the playoffs this season, AP. And so hopefully your conference and my conference, get on that 12 man. Yeah, let's get it going.
We'll clash. Get it going. Yeah, it'll be. I love to see with the 12-team playoff, Doug, that we're going to see some matchups that maybe we haven't seen for years or never have seen in the past. The inaugural game between 2 universities, 2 colleges. So I'm looking forward to that 12-team college football playoff.
Absolutely, AP. I really enjoyed our inaugural kickoff right now between you and I with AP and DP. And I think we're going to have a fantastic season. I know we're going to have a fantastic season, and I'm optimistic about it. And good luck to the SEC.
And hats off to the ACC. They're going to meet on the field. We'll have some bragging rights involved, not only there, but probably in hopefully the 12-team college football playoffs. So this is AP Stedham and my partner, and Doug Parrish, DP. We're going to see you next week for another edition of AP and DP, SEC and ACC.
Thank you.